and get the meeting started. Melissa, can you call roll?
Yes. All right. Welcome to the University Hill Commercial Area Management Commission meeting. It is January 6th, 2026, and I will call roll. Trent Bush.
Here.
Tel Jones.
Here.
Danica Powell.
Here.
Ted Rockwell.
Here.
Dean Anderson.
Here.
I will now turn the meeting over to Chair Rockwell for procedural items.
Thanks, Melissa. We got two procedural items here. Standard stuff, approval of the November 25 meeting minutes. Will anyone have any edits or anything that you need to make? Do I hear a motion? So moved. All right, a second. All right. Approval of the November 25 meeting minutes, all in favor? Aye. Great, that's unanimous. Second item is recruitment updates. So this is the time of year where we end up having kind of a shuffling of the commission potentially, and there'll be new candidates for the commission membership considered. I'm technically on the bubble. My term ends here in 26. So this is a reminder that we should be actively trying to consider individuals that may be interested in serving on this commission. So
Does that one person need to be a Hill person?
I'm an at-large individual, I believe.
Oh.
It's not a judgment on my weight or anything.
Gotcha.
I'm just, I serve as a community member.
Okay.
And that's the position that I believe is open. Yeah, resident.
Okay.
That's what it is. Anything staff would want to add to the recruitment side of this and how this process ends up working? And
I have an update for you.
thank you.
We're receiving applications. So January 23rd, we had an open house event yesterday. I think there were about 50 attendees. And John Morris has been reviewing applications as they come in for eligibility.
Great. Any news on anyone who happens to be interested in this commission or?
Not that I've heard of. I talked to a few people last night, but it's kind of hard to tell their like level of interest, but I tried to sell. Told them to attend tonight if they did so.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Yes.
Anything else on the recruitment updates side of this? Thank you all.
I sent out a few emails, but that's it. Haven't heard any responses.
All right.
You all are the best ambassadors for that, I think. Yeah, certainly can speak to level of commitment and stuff coming up that we're working on. So happy to support, but great if you all can spread the word.
Just as a reminder to Danica, I know you currently serve as a representative of the business, if I remember correctly. I can't remember the official title. But that's also an option for people who are looking to serve on the commission that maybe not reside within the boundaries, but that they are employed by or work for somebody who owns property up there. I believe they can serve on the commission as well.
Owns property or owns business?
Yes.
Both.
I don't know.
Okay.
I know that, I mean, my term ends 26 and I am literally just an at-large resident. Dane is as well, his position. And so I think you can be all of the above is what you're pointing out.
I believe so. Danica, I saw you just came on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know why my video won't come on, but I just asked the Moxie because I worked for them. I'm like, hey, can I represent you? And they were like, fine. And I just had them write a letter. So
Yeah, I did the same. Thoughts.
Oh,
sorry, it just moved me to a panelist. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just asked the Moxie and they're like, sure. So I think it's, if you could find a business to sponsor you, they're not super involved. And I think, it's just a way for me to get on the board. So I don't know if there's other businesses that would mind sponsoring people.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but if we're having a hard time finding somebody who, works on the Hill.
Yeah, it opens up the door a little bit more. Thanks, Danica.
All right, I'm going to move on then to our next agenda item, which is public participation. Are there any members of the public here today who would like to address the commission?
Zara West here. Zara, can you raise your hand if you'd like to speak? Don't see a hand raised.
There it is.
Oh, there it is. All right.
Mute. Oh, sorry. I think I was muted. Can you guys hear?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hi. So, oh gosh, why is my screen doing that? Can you guys see me?
No, we just see a black screen with your name on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I kind of feel like a fly on the wall. I wish I was there in the room. So I am taking over the position for Mary Ellis, who I believe she was representing the University Hill Association as a homeowner on the Hill.
Yes, I'm familiar with Mary. She's addressed the commission a few times before.
Yeah, so she's moving to Oregon, so I am filling her role in that capacity.
Excellent. Well, it's nice
Yeah.
to meet you.
Yeah,
have any
you
questions?
too.
Any questions for the commission or anything in particular that's top of mind for you?
I don't think so. I know that we as in the University Hill Association, we're going to start doing meetings quarterly. I believe our next meeting is January 28th at the Academy. If that has an interest to anyone, you are welcome to attend. But yeah, next time I want to make sure to be there in the room with you guys.
Yeah, you're welcome to join us. This is a meeting open to the public, so we would love to hear what the University Hill Association has top of mind as well. What time is this meeting on the 28th at the Academy?
It is, I believe, at it's 6 o'clock at the Academy on, the 28th on Wednesday.
And that's open for anyone to join?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Does anyone have any questions for Dara? No. Thank you so much for tuning in and introducing yourself. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Have a good evening. Are there any other members of the public here to address the commission? All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is consent agenda. We all received our consent agenda packet. Does anyone have anything that they wanted to try to discuss at this time about the consent agenda? All right. We're on to the Hill Boulder update.
Jake was unable to attend and Dakota was able to fill in. So
Okay.
Do we know the date of the rail jam? Yeah, Bill Jam, yeah, sorry.
The Hill Rail Jam?
Yeah, there you
I was told it's February 7th, Saturday the 7th. Not very quickly.
I think we have time
I think
because the agenda is moving quickly, so.
it is January 17th.
so it is
Wow.
January again.
It's coming up in like.
Let's change that.
January 17th.
Yes, and that will be 3 quarters from Friday
Wow.
16th through Sunday the 18th.
Did we know a time when that starts?
Information on it.
I feel like
I can probably get it.
I think it's usually right when it starts, but a few hours after that.
That's when it starts, but 7. First day.
And
Yeah.
hopefully not trucks of snow.
Hopefully it's
Yeah, hopefully that's 70, yes.
Yeah, right.
that'll be fun.
Who leads that anyway? Is that Eldora So I think it's see free ride.
Yeah.
See free ride. Like we need to move back.
Into like February.
Yeah, March.
I think it's set to coincide with like the after the first week of classes or something like that, right?
It makes sense.
But it's
Just
just
fun last year.
yes.
They made it happen.
Right. Anything else about the Hill Boulder that we want to try to ask about or otherwise? All right. Okay, well, I'm gonna move the agenda forward. If something comes up, just holler at me. We are now to matters from staff. I'm gonna turn it over, I guess, to Mark, to you. Yeah,
Sure. Yeah, and apologies, we didn't have an extensive packet, just the way that holiday schedule, the wind event. And make a couple other excuses, but hopefully we'll provide a couple verbal updates that are helpful. And I'll hand it over to Regan here. We're gonna talk mostly about some of the next steps related to Downtown Development Authority. And then mostly related to that topic, thinking ahead to the March meeting and what we're thinking for our next conversation.
Thanks. So things are moving along. We are, some next steps I'll outline and then open it up for questions. We are hosting DDA information sessions that will be open to the public. Really targeting those who would be most directly impacted. So property and business owners, residents, community partners within the study area boundaries, but they are open to the public. They're taking place on January 22nd and 23rd, so Thursday and Friday. We'll have multiple time options throughout the day just to accommodate different schedules. And registration is available through the city's DDA website, but I'm happy to share the link with Melissa to share with you all, or however that works best. So you can register yourselves or share it with your network. I think those are going to be a really great opportunity to really educate the community. That's kind of the purpose that we're approaching. So they're not, these sessions, I just want to clarify, are not intended to propose or present a finalized DDA. They're meant to explain what a DDA is, what they can do, share best practices from other communities. And then we're going to present some community informed themes that we've gathered from existing past plans and engagements that a DDA could potentially focus on and give the community something to react to. So January 22nd and 23rd, and then we'll hold a virtual one on Monday, January 26th as well. At the same time, city staff and our consultant team, Puma, are continuing the kind of technical work on the back end. So we're refining the potential boundaries. That'll be a kind of a process through April. So there will be a further opportunity to provide input on the study area. We're analyzing the financial feasibility of a DDA, looking at tax increment finance projections, the use of a potential mill levy. We're reviewing legal requirements, evaluating governance options. All of these findings will be brought back to the planning group during their February meeting, and then likely to you all in March. So my goal is to have some slides for you all in March to give you something to really provide input on and respond to. And then we're scheduled to go to council for a study session on March 12th. And looking to receive policy guidance at that point. And then we're still targeting a November ballot initiative this year. And then should this move forward, the campaign effort would be led ideally by the planning group. The city can't be involved in the campaign. I'll pause there. I'll see if Danica, if she's still online, if she has anything to add, just given that you're the UCAMC rep for the planning group, or if not, Danica, I'll open it up. Any questions?
No, I just was wondering, I mean, I'm happy to share the information. How else are you notifying property owners that it sounds like you're notifying people that might be impacted by a potential DDA? So I'm assuming that's property owners. Are you mailing them or going door to door? Or how are you?
Mailings at
this point. Right now, we're really just relying on our community partners and the planning group. We've shared the information and just asked you all to distribute it to your network. So that's how we're approaching outreach at this point. Once we get further down the road, we will be making contact with each of the electors at some point.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Question or two, maybe, I don't know. The outreach that's going on, well, I guess the first thing was that Dara was on the call. She's still on the call. That would seem to be a relatively important group to engage in an info session. I don't know if they have specifically been contacted for these sessions and or if it would make any sense to do a truncated version of something like that at their next meeting, 28th.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I wrote down the date. I've been in touch with, I think Brenda Rittenauer. She's the liaison for the University Hill Neighborhood Association. So I'll connect with her and make sure I'm on the agenda for the next one. I think that's a great idea.
The boundaries of the DDA sort of determine who ends up getting to vote on the DDA, right? Am I remembering this correctly? Okay. So that's one of the other things that I'm just saying out loud, I guess. Captain Obvious is obvious here. That's why that neighborhood association, I don't know if there's other neighborhood associations like that. Again, stating the obvious, you're probably already there, but that would be something that would occur to me as a natural fit for the individuals impacted, but also the organizations around the folks who would be affected.
Yeah,
So.
definitely.
And as a reminder, the electors are a little bit unique for a DDA. It is residents, property owners, and businesses. So anybody that does business in the proposed area, whatever we end up narrowing it down to, will have a vote. So there will be a couple elements of that. Just had a discussion today with our consultants, Puma, and they brought up a good point that turnout is often very low in these types of elections. I think part of that is that we can coordinate the ballot with the county. So for residents, it's pretty easy. You get a ballot, and on your ballot will be this question. But that's less straightforward for a business. For a property owner, that may not be a voter in the city normally. And so we have to make sure we get the list of addresses and they are aware that this thing is even happening and that they have a vote. And so we'll be working on that as well. The city will support certainly making sure people have the information they need, getting all the ballots to the right people, determining advocating for whether or not to vote for it. That is where kind of that line is for us.
Yeah, I mean, along the lines of associations that gather groups of constituencies together with a common interest, it would occur to me that the Boulder Chamber probably would be a really good organization to help kind of raise awareness, at least, that this is even happening, so that owners, property owners, business owners are aware. So, yeah, again, stating the obvious.
Yeah, and the Downtown Boulder Partnership are both on the planning, and I think they are very aware that at some point here they'll really have to take the reins. Don't want to presume an outcome. I mean, certainly we have an opinion on how this could be a benefit to business community downtown on the Hill. Ultimately, whether or not that's true is something to be led by the broader business community, right? Hey, this is a good thing for us or not, and here's why. So we'll do everything we can to support that and provide information. Hopefully be able to turn a more polished product over to the broader community to go make that pitch.
One other question. I don't remember the answer. Is it the building owner or the business owner within the building? Or is it both?
Both.
Oh, it's both. Okay.
So it's the property owner.
Property owner
and the
plus
tenant who
the
holds
commercial tenant.
lease.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Business
just
have quite a bit of power in this because if I'm remembering correctly, I think it's property owner, you own 10 properties, you get one vote. But as a business, right, all multiple individual businesses get individual votes. Like business owner.
That's how we're getting people to start businesses.
Any other questions for Regan or others around DDA progress? Process itself.
I guess the only one is the study area, has that been redefined? I know you said you're going to give us information in March, but
It's a
or
work,
these sessions, I'm guessing, but
it's a work in progress. Right now, it still includes KJID, UJID, and then it's spanning up north along Broadway and capturing kind of the Alpine Balsam area and then that ideal market commercial area. And then it also extends east along Pearl to Folsom.
to Folsom.
Yeah.
Cool.
How many, this is just really like curiosity's sake. The northern boundary that is encompassing, I think, the ideal market and then the new campus there. Are there many residents that are captured within that boundary, or is that mainly meant as a kind of a business boundary that's happening there?
My understanding, and Mark, you can chime in here, is that it's more to capture that business activity and also given the influx of city employees that will eventually be commuting that way. And so kind of helping with the broader connectivity lens as well.
Yeah, I think for the most part, DEA boundaries typically don't include a lot of residential areas. And I think that's because the primary purpose is commercial area revitalization. And so that's, you know, it's not exclusive. There will be residents, there will be residential properties within the boundaries, but yeah, how far you kind of go beyond Pearl Street, beyond Broadway, I mean, those are, the implication is, there has to be some value for a voter, right? If they're going to decide to opt into that, even, you know, one major policy consideration is whether or not a DDA, proposed DDA would come with a mill levy. Property tax. So those are some of the balance of figuring out what the right proposed area is ultimately and who benefits from being in that area.
Sense. Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, well, very related. So you all are tackling kind of the implications of a DDA. You have representation on that planning group. DMC does as well, Downtown Management Commission. So our thought, our proposal for March is to have a joint meeting with DMC. We are actually looking at your date on March 3rd for that. We have not pitched that yet to DMC members, so we're gonna do that next. The reason being that, as Regan mentioned, we do have a scheduled study session with City Council on the proposed DDA on March 12th. So it gives us a chance to get some feedback from you all prior to the council meeting and to be able to report out on that. We're still working on kind of the scope of that, but I would imagine that you'll see a proposed boundary. You'll start to see some of the policy implications on, I mentioned mill levy. Mill levy is going to directly implicate how we think about the future of both general improvement districts, University Hill and downtown. I can't say what that is ultimately today, but you know, whether or not we maintain the GIDs, whether or not you maintain a GID and the GID mill levy and then add on a DDA mill levy, you know, you have to make that pitch to voters if we go down that road. If we don't have a mill levy for the GIDs, what does that mean for the future? There are different operating models of these where DEA could manage the general improvement districts, models like that. There's models where the city maintains ownership operations of the GID, some hybrids of that. So those are the types of things that we won't have a final recommendation for you all or for City Council in March, but we're going to want to start to get feedback on, you know, what some of those options are. We're pursuing a mill levy. We'll want it for the DEA. We'll want to know that pretty far in advance so that we can plan messaging and think about how it would be used and all that kind of stuff. I think so there's the structure and the governance piece, which I think is really important to you all, and getting your feedback on that will be really important. And then also what's called the plan of development, which is essentially the strategic plan for a DDA, which sets out a vision for how would we function, how would we use the funds that are available to DEA. That will have kind of I would say, a pretty rough draft of that
Mhm.
heading into March that we'll also be wanting feedback on. So I think for you all in particular will be, I think it's really exciting that this proposal really binds and ties the hill to the downtown. Is the plan of development doing a good enough job of really articulating that vision? How do we prioritize our efforts if it's created on, November 26th? Do you see those priorities reflected accurately, all that kind of stuff? So that's generally what we'll be seeking feedback on. We could certainly have a similar meeting with UCAMC and DMC, but just thought for efficiency's sake, it might be nice to all get in the same room and have a similar conversation.
And I also just want to note that given that a plan of development serves as kind of the strategic document for the 30-year lifespan of a DDA, it's pretty high level, but it also can be amended. So it can be written into the plan of development itself to be amended every 5 years, just to reflect priorities and community vision.
Love and flexibility.
Yeah.
So would March also be when we're potentially onboarding new commission members?
I believe the timeline is March would be the last meeting of this group as seated, and then your subsequent.
Would be the next one.
Yeah.
The other big question I have, am I correct? Yeah.
I think council doesn't make formal appointments until March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a really procedural thing, and it's very selfish to me. I have a doctor's appointment that day. And am already kind of it's gonna be tight for me to get here on time.
Sure.
So if that factors in at all for how this gets scheduled, I was gonna appeal to push it to 4:30 if we could, to allow for me to be here, but by the same token, if it decides to be, or needs to be on a different date, at least this person sitting here would be able to be flexible to get that done. So, just saying that out loud for where they were.
Great. But we'll check in with DMC next week, and see what the calendars look like. If we need to adjust, one of us will send out an availability request, and maybe we can just slide it to 4:30 if that's working for everybody.
We have a placeholder for DMC as well, following week. So,
Right.
if we need to, if it's during UCAMC's normal time, maybe schedule it to 4:30. If it's during DMC's normal time, then maybe it's a point for everybody. But to Mark's point, we'll follow up with DMC next week, kind of feel them out, make sure that everyone's okay with the combined meeting, just given the nature of the agenda. And then we can look at which day works best for everybody.
Are there any concerns with the combined meeting that's being suggested, or the dates that have been mentioned, March 3rd or 10th? Good. It's okay. Yeah. Danica, any concern?
Nope, I don't have any concerns.
All right, thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
All right. Well, hey, we're working towards the end of the agenda here, so. So we had matters from commissioners is what's coming next here. We had a bi-monthly check-in recap on December 9th. And let's see here. So much of this was around DDA considerations. A lot of the stuff we just heard was something that was presented there as well. And I think in that meeting, we were learning that there is going to be a new position to help with commission support. Is that Melissa? Is that what we're talking about? I think that was also on the docket for that conversation as well. And then also a little bit of conversation about council priorities coming up. And that's something happening probably starting right now. I would think of that. Council should be updated on the DDA stuff, as we just heard sometime March 12th. I guess is what
Yeah, I can just briefly on council priorities, just for your awareness. Council will have a retreat. So this is the new council that was elected in November. Will have their retreat on Monday and Tuesday of next week. So We are working with them to try to establish 1-year priorities because we get to do this all over again in November 26 as we shift to even year elections. They had a few dozen proposed priorities. They are doing some kind of like ranking of those, and then they'll come together and kind of talk through priorities over 2 days to see ultimately what they land on. We're certainly selfishly hoping that they are achievable within a year. So that'll be the challenge because some of these are big ideas, but a few highlights which are just kind of in title, but certainly feel free to tune in and we'll be providing kind of an update after the retreat on where they land and what the implications are. E-bike, safety, looking at residential vacancy tax, looking at accelerating efforts to address commercial vacancies, a lot of wildfire information,
Minimum wage on there.
the scoping, the exploring the modified tip credit. So that was one proposed. So that will be certainly one to pay attention to and see if there's support for that. There's some middle income housing work, some rewrites or the simplification of our land use code, building code. So some interesting stuff in there. Certainly some of those are more kind of scoping for future work as opposed to rewriting our building code in 1 year. But, it'll be interesting to see where they land and to work right away.
Thank you. Really cruising now, guys. So there's only a couple more things here on the agenda, so I'm just gonna ask to see if there's anything that matters from commissioners, kind of being also random things that may come up. So is there anything anyone wanted to bring up at this time for the commission's attention or for staff?
It's all been covered for me today.
All right. The upcoming meetings, I'm going to point out something here that's in error.
I just noticed that as well.
Yeah, the next bi-monthly check-in meeting is Tuesday, February 10th, but is with Dane Anderson and myself, not Trent. Trent was the last one. You got a ticket?
I paid my ticket.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
February 10th.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I have it in my calendar, so it is me.
Do you need a reminder of the calendar? Because I have dates.
I think I have all of them. I will double check, and then I have the cadence. I think I just copied it over from the
Okay.
last agenda.
You record these and do you use that to do the notes? I'm gonna say that out loud then. So February 10th is Dane Anderson, April 14th is Danica Powell, June 9th is Tel Jones, August 11th is Trent Bush. You get away with just one this year. October 13th, Dane Anderson, and then December 8th, Danica Powell. Just you'll have that for
I
later.
appreciate it.
All right, our next, a reminder that our next UCAMC Commission meeting will be Tuesday, March 3rd. Time to be determined, whether or not that date actually holds also to be determined. So, anything else for the good of the order? All right, we are adjourned.
Wow.
Good job.
Whoa.
That's
That was new. Did you break last burn's record?